Okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Our workshop today, inshallah, it's one from our professional development training. We have some workshops according to our contract with you as a school. Our workshop today entitled How to be a Professional Teacher or How to be Well Evaluated. I'd like to introduce myself to you again in 1 minute. My name is Mr. Khaled Al-Hakim. I was born in 1965. I've been working in education since 1985. I've been working as academic principal since 2000. I've been working as trainer since 2010. I'm working on my master's degree, alhamdulillah, I've finished from NNU, Northwest USA. My master's degree is on curriculum assessment and innovation. I've been working in accreditation since 2009. I've been working in development and improving schools since 2009, preparing schools to be accredited by WASC, by AYA, by Advanced, by Array, and even the Saudi Education Evaluation Commission that has been recently established. Before we start, as brainstorming, I'd like one of our attendees to answer me, 1 or 2 participants, please. What do you expect from our workshop today in terms of this photo or this slide? We want only 1 participant or 2, if you please. What do you expect from our workshop today in terms of this slide that is in front of us? What do you expect? Who can share us his ideas? You can unmute yourself and then answer. I give the choice to the participant to unmute themselves.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay, I think that to make problems more simplified for students.
This is one idea, yes. Who else? I have here Miss Mariam, Miss Abrar, Miss Hanan. Any participant? She said that we have good ideas for our students. We can have another idea out of this slide, that we have to set ourselves free from old traditional teaching methods to be a professional one. We can have this idea. If we can align between the title of the workshop and the slide in front of us. So our workshop objectives today, number 1, the first domain, we have 4 domains. The first domain, planning and preparation. The second domain, classroom management, or let me say, classroom environment. The third domain, instruction, means teaching. The fourth domain, professional responsibilities. So if we have quick overview on our workshop today or the course today, this course guides us as teachers on what? How to plan and how to prepare our lessons before entering the class or before having our virtual class. Because here in our workshop today, I'm going to align between the face-to-face teaching or virtual teaching. How to prepare, how to plan our work, our lessons before entering the class or before having the virtual class. Then how to instruct our learners effectively, how to teach our students effectively. Finally, the workshop shows professionalism of the staff. What should I do to be a professional teacher? Most important, our workshop guides teacher how to manage the period academically. Since I enter the class till the end of the period, or since I start my virtual class till the session ends. The teachers will have activities in our workshop. We will practice in a friendly way some activities that will surely reflect the impact of our training on all the staff, and also the guidelines will be reflected positively on the teacher's performance. We will have little bit activities to practice together, to share our experience, and this will be reflected on the impact of our work in classes. Let's start the first activity, then we start our workshop. If I ask the teacher, can you list my points of strength and other points that should be improved? We have only 2 minutes, then we will continue together. I want the teacher here, the participation is not mandatory, it's optional. If you share us your experience, it will be appreciated. I write my points of strength and the points I feel that should be improved to be a professional teacher, especially during the age of virtual teaching or virtual classes. We have only 2 minutes. It's okay. Have we written? Have we written? What are our points of strength and what are the points that we feel they should be improved? Who will be the participant, the first volunteer? Of course, it's highly appreciated. Okay, Miss Angie.
Yes.
Who's talking? Okay. Have you written? We can
no,
imagine the situation. Okay.
Yes.
What are your points of strength?
I think, okay. I will write it now, or I will speak with you now.
You can speak.
I'll
Okay, it's
answer.
okay. It's okay.
My points of strength that I like to learn so much. I'm a quick learner too, and I think this is for me. And my points to be improved that I have. I'm sometimes confused, and I have no self-confidence.
Okay. Confused of what, Miss Angie?
When maybe in teaching, confused. I think that maybe it's wrong to do this or that. But then when I asked Mrs. Nihal, she said, no, it's correct.
Sometimes, you mean sometimes I have a lot of teaching strategies, for example,
Yes.
but I find myself at a loss which one I have to implement. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah, she can decide each one of them will be more appropriate for the class or for the category that she is teaching for. That's why she's asking. But she's brilliant, by the way. But sometimes she's suspicious somehow herself, or not of herself actually, but about the class or about the skills that she's teaching. So she's not have a confirmed idea about this is going to be somehow like appropriate for them or not.
Okay, what do you teach, Miss Angie?
English for grade
English.
2 and 3.
Okay, mashallah. We need a math teacher to answer our points of strength and the points to be improved. It doesn't matter to mention the points of to be improved if you don't like, but I want to receive the points of strength. We want one science English and one math. Miss Angie finished the English, so we need math teacher and science teacher. Math, do we have? Do we have?
Yes, we have Mrs. Lamia and we have Mrs. Marwa and Mrs. Ahlam. Can please any one of you answer?
Because I want to cover the core subjects. Anyway, if you ask me as a teacher, my points of strength, I do have passion to my work. I do love my students that I teach them. I am well aware of my curriculum. I've prepared my curriculum before the academic year starts. But according to our recent situation, if we can say the points that should be improved, we must be aware of our platform to be able to manage. Am I right? I mean, the teacher should be aware of the platform, how to deal with the students virtually. We may say so. Okay. If we start the first domain, we said to be a professional teacher, I have 4 domains. The first domain, planning and preparation. What does it mean, planning and preparation? The effective teachers should plan and prepare their lessons using what? Using their extensive knowledge of the content area. This means that I have to read my curriculum. I have to read my content before the academic year starts. The first point, to read my curriculum, it's okay. The second, I should develop a detailed plan that must be aligned with the standards. The detailed plan, what is it? I mean the curriculum mapping. We align, we connect between the standards that we are supposed to follow and the content that I am supposed to teach. There should be connectedness between the content and the standards in the form of curriculum mapping. I know that all of the staff, I could say, finished developing their curriculum mapping. We aligned in our curriculum mapping between the standards and the content. So to align between the standards and the content, I should read and understand the standards and the curriculum, then I connect between them. We should take into consideration the students' prior understanding, I mean the previous understanding of their subject. We should take into consideration the students' skills of the previous year. Okay? While developing our curriculum mapping, while connected between the standard and the content, we should anticipate while preparing, we should expect that we may face some misconceptions on the part of the students. I mean, we may have some students who are unable to understand my lesson or my material. Also to plan, while planning, while developing my curriculum mapping, while preparing my lessons, while preparing, designing, developing my plan, I should have a variety of strategies, I mean teaching strategies, because in some schools when reviewing the curriculum mapping, we find some teachers only have one teaching strategies in all lessons. And of course, this is not acceptable. So we should have a variety of teaching strategies. Also, while preparing, I should plan having differentiated learning in my plan. What does it mean, differentiated? I should have differentiation, I mean a variety in teaching while designing my lessons to meet the students' different levels. Very important points. I should read the curriculum first. I should read the standards and understand them. Then I start developing, planning my curriculum mapping, make alignment, connectedness between the standards. Two people are waiting. Okay. We should make connectedness between the standards and the content while developing my plan, while developing my teaching strategies. I should put in my mind, take into consideration that we may have struggling students. We may have students who will be unable to understand my material. So we should have a variety of teaching methods. Also, we should have differentiated learning tools. To have a variety of teaching tools means to meet each single student's needs. This is what we call personalized teaching. Okay? So the first part to be a professional teacher starts from planning. That's why when we attend some teachers' periods, we could feel from the first 2 minutes that the teacher prepared or didn't prepare. Okay. Is someone talking? Okay. We come to the first point in our plan. To understand, to read and understand the standards. Who can tell me what does the word standard mean? Any participant? What did you do to prepare your plan before the start of the academic year? The word standards. What does it mean, the word standard? Let me ask the question in a different way. Based on what we have, based on what we have developed our plan, okay? Okay, I'm listening.
Okay, I think it means like criteria and layouts that we should somehow to follow to develop ourselves and to be stuck to the rules and regulations.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Nal. The standards are the international criteria for teaching. The international criteria for teaching. So based on the standards, we can develop our curriculum, as you see. Based on the standards, we can set our teaching strategies. Based on the standards, we can set or develop our assessment policy or assessment system. For example, the British schools follow Cambridge framework, as you know. What should we do to understand Cambridge framework? So this is the first step to be a professional teacher, to commit to the international standards, to understand the international standards, to be able to align between the standards and the content. For example, here, if we check Cambridge framework, You see, how can we prepare our students to succeed in a world that is changing fast? They guide us. What should we do to teach the students in an ever-changing technological world, for example, changing very fast? If we look here, the British framework or Cambridge framework guide us to have creative students, critical thinking and problem solving students, digital literacy, learning to learn, communication, collaboration, emotional development, social responsibilities. What should we do to achieve all these? Can you guess? What should we do to have creative student? What should we do to instill the skill of creativity on the students? What should we do to have critical thinking and the problem solving questions in our school? They showed us in a good way like this. Thinking and learning skills. If you want to instill creativity, you see what is below. The students should participate in creative activities. The students should create new content from their own ideas or other resources. The students should discover and express their own personal identity and feelings through creative activities. So we have guidelines to instill creativity skill on the part of the students. What about critical thinking? If you want to instill critical thinking skill, you have to follow the following. The student should be able to understand links between ideas. The student should be able to evaluate text ideas and arguments, synthesis ideas and information, identifying and prioritizing problems to be addressed to set his priorities. If we want to have digital literacy, to instill the skill of the students who can live in an ever-changing technological world, for example. The students should be able to use digital and online tools. This is the recent situation now. Following safe online practices to protect yourself and your school. Learning to learn. What should the students do? Practical skills for participating in learning. You see, they set the skill and the rubrics to fulfill or to implement this skill. This is the first point, to understand our standards, the international criteria that we want our students to do or achieve. So the first step is so important in the first domain that is entitled planning and preparation. So the first step in planning and preparation, to read and understand the standards, to read and understand your content. Here, this is concerning the Cambridge framework. We come to another kind of standards, Common Core standards. I think you are following Common Core standards, right?
Yes, we are following Common Core.
In Common Core standards, they set, as you see the arrow here, these are the standards. They set the standard and they set the indicators, as you see. Again, the first one, these are the standards and these are the indicators. And this what I have developed and I sent to you, my reshaping of Common Core standards to make it easy for the teachers. Instead of having the standards, then having the indicators, I reshaped Common Core standards like this, and I have sent it to you to follow, right? We set the standard like this. This is the standard. For example, reading, the strand. Subject English. Reading, literature, this is the heading. Number 1, RL1, reading, literature, first standard. What should we do to achieve the first standard? If you want to achieve this standard in KG, you have to do this. I mean the performance indicators. If you want to achieve the first standard in grade 1, you have to achieve this performance indicator and so on. So instead of demonstrating the standards like this, standards plus indicators, I reshape them to be easy for the teachers to follow like this. The standard and the performance indicators for each grade level. I think it's easy, right? Teachers, have you read the Common Core standards? Math and English?
Yes, most of the supervisors have the Common Core, yes. And I'm going to resend it further.
Even the teachers, Ms. Nihal?
No,
have the teacher read?
No.
So please, one of our top priorities today.
I will send, inshallah, a copy for all of them because actually I was working in the accreditation, that's why.
We know that virtual teaching is so hard.
Yeah.
We know that. We know that you are exerting hard effort, great effort, but
and by the
all
way,
the teachers,
yes,
all
we
the
had
teachers.
the midterm exams. That's why I think they were so stressed.
Okay, but concerning the coordinators, have the coordinators read and understood the standards?
Yes, of course.
Great. So they have to convey their experience to the teachers.
Yes.
So the first, let me summarize quickly. The first step in our plan and the preparation to be a professional teacher, to read the standards and understand them, to read my content and make the alignment between the standards and the content. Okay? And I want the teacher to know the sequence in the standards. For example, here, read closely to determine what the text says explicitly and to make logical inferences from it. Cite specific textual evidence when writing or speaking to support conclusions drawn from the text. I want you to compare between grade 3 and the grade 4 in the performance indicator. To achieve the first standard in reading literature, in grade 3, ask and answer questions to demonstrate understanding of a text, referring explicitly to the text as basis for the answers. So we have to do this if you want to achieve the first standard. We come to grade 4. You see, it's sequential. Grade level, then grade 4, then grade 5, till we go to grade 12. You see the difference? Refer to details and examples in a text. In grade 3, ask and answer questions. When we go up, we have to refer to the details of the text. I think it's clear the difference between grade 4 and 5. If we 3 and 4. If we go to 5, we will find quotation, quote accurately from a text. You ask the students to take quotation from the text. So you see the gradual going up from each grade level to the next. We see the skill becomes harder or becomes more and so on.
More complicated,
yes.
It requires more things.
We have more skills when we go from each grade level to the next. To limit the point, because I know this is a hard workshop, so I want one volunteer to limit the points that we have finished. Again, we said how to be a professional teacher. The first domain that we are still discussing, planning and the preparation. What are the most 2 important points in the first domain? What are the most important 2 points in the first domain? 2. Any volunteer? The first, the
Um,
first two important
Standards.
points. Yes, to read and understand the standards for each grade level. Great, thank you. The next point, to read the content.
Yes, content.
Yes.
Standard and content.
Yes, standards and content. Then we make the alignment between the standard and our content. This is another example to the standards, reading literature, you see, from each grade level to the next, and we can see the difference in implementing skills from each grade level to the next one. Okay? All the coordinators have common core standards?
Yes, we have.
Coordinators. Okay.
Yes, they have. And I'm going to resend it for them again. And by the way, some of them, or the majority of them, they have done it before in the prior accreditation. So I'm going to resend it for all of them again. It's okay.
Okay. Concerning science, of course, we commit or follow NGSS, Next Generation Science Standards. Also, if you have Next Generation Science Standards, it clarifies the most essential skills for each grade level. Next Generation Science Standards stress the points of practical science. They align between theoretical and practical science according to each grade level. Also, it is divided into grades. You see here, Next Generation Science Standards released in 2013. They reflect the interconnected nature of science as it is practiced and experienced in the real world. Next Generation Science Standards was built upon a group of core principles that, you see, reaffirm children are born investigators. So they stress the point that students should practice, should investigate, should discover. They are not passive learners. They have to work. They receive the knowledge, they analyze the knowledge, then they rediscuss the outcomes with their teachers. Recognize understanding builds over time. As third, science and engineering require both knowledge and practice. What they observe and what's the result. One of the amazing techniques in teaching science, just to demonstrate or practice the science experiment with our students, then we ask our students, what have you observed? He mentions what he has observed or what she has observed. Then I ask him, what's the result or what's the outcome? So here we instill critical thinking skill in our students. Acknowledge a connection to students' interests and experiences is essential. Focus on core ideas and practice. Promote equity. Next Generation Science Standards presents 3 dimensions that are combined to form standards. We can, when we have, let me say, a workshop on curriculum mapping, we can explain in details Next Generation Science Standards. But this time we say we have in English Common Core Standards, Math Common Core Standards, Science Next Generation Science Standards, and I can provide you with American standards concerning computer and social studies to follow the international standards in teaching social and ICT. Next, now we can understand that 2 important points discovering the standards, discovering the content, make the alignment between the standard and the content. Look at this slide we see here. If we want to have the detailed plan, because we mentioned one of the sentences during the fourth slide that the professional teacher should have developed a detailed plan showing him what should he do through the academic year. The detailed plan means the curriculum mapping. You see here the content area. For example, I have lesson 1. Lesson 1, we must implement, for example, reading, literature, standard number 1 in this lesson. This is the alignment I mean when I said you have to alignment between the standards and the content. You have to align between the standards and the content. For example, lesson 1, in lesson 1, we have to implement the first standards or the second standard or the fourth standards and so on. Whether in math, English, science, it's so important to clarify, to set what is the required standards in this lesson. This is the alignment I mean. Is it easy? Is it clear? Then, to discuss quickly the detailed plan, I mean the curriculum mapping. To develop the detailed plan, you should set the objectives. What are the objectives of teaching this subject? This is number 1. You should have course description. You explain in brief what this course is supposed to teach the students. Then I start developing the curriculum mapping like this. I think you have received the template. We set the strand, as you see, the standards, the topic, the skill, the activities that must be practiced to make it so easy for the students to understand this topic, to make it so easy for the students to understand and practice these skills or performance indicators in the standard. How can we assess our students to make sure that they could understand this lesson? I mean, what kind of assessment? What are the assessment tools? It's very important. Curriculum mapping, one of very important workshops, but here quickly, to make it so clear for the teacher how to develop the curriculum mapping, I must align between the standard, as you see here, the standard and the content or the topic. What are the skills that must be achieved? I mentioned here. Each lesson should have some specific activities to make it easy for the students. The first teacher, Miss Angie, I could remember when we discussed the points that we need to make sure that we will do
Yes.
actively and effectively. Here, this point, Miss Angie.
Yes.
I have the topic and I made the alignment between this topic and the standard. The skills that I need to achieve in this lesson are so clear in the performance indicators, as I explained in the standards. Then, what should I do to make it so easy for my students to understand? I should practice some activities, I mean teaching activities or teaching methods to make it so easy for our students. If you read here, peer-to-peer, share, group competition, historical fiction video, teacher's role for each group. Yani we have a variety of teaching methods. In some, for example, when you teach a story, you can ask one of the students to have the role of the narrator. Who can, yes, who can narrate the most important events in this story to me? You can choose two students to share their ideas, peer-to-peer. We can make a competition, group A and the group B. You tell me your ideas and the other group tells you their ideas, and you make a competition. So the activities here is so important because it will make so easy. The activity will make it easy for our students to understand the lesson and the practice
Yes.
the skills required for this lesson. So here we need, inshallah, we will do it together. Ms. Nihal, one of the required workshops, inshallah, we'll do together, active learning, whether it is virtual class or face-to-face teaching, inshallah.
Inshallah, Mr.
Then
Khalid.
we come to the assessment quickly, because assessment is a different workshop, but here we need brief idea about the assessment. We have two kinds of assessment: formative assessment and summative assessment. Formative assessment, here I'm discussing how to develop the curriculum mapping. Okay, formative assessment, we assess our students' understanding for each single lesson. So what we do during the virtual classes, we are doing what? Formative assessment, because we are assessing our students' understanding of the lesson. So this is the kind of the assessment. What about the tools? We have a variety of assessment tools.
Yes,
Use the
right.
questions, true or false, critical thinking, and so on. And this is so important to have the assessment workshop, because we will discuss Bloom's taxonomy and how to develop my questions based on the 6 different levels of knowledge. Very important, this workshop. Inshallah, in our program with you, we will do it. Even if you want us to have it next Thursday, I will be so happy to implement and discuss this workshop with you. I mean the assessment workshop. Next,
Yes.
this Thursday, okay?
Okay.
Inshallah. But you tell me when.
Inshallah.
So now,
okay.
to limit the point, what should I do to plan and prepare? Read the standards and understand. Read the content, understand. Make the alignment between the standard and the content. How? Through the detailed plan. What are the required elements in our detailed plan? The standard, the content, the skills required in this specific lesson. What are the activities that I will practice with my students to make it so easy with them to understand the lesson? After that, how can you make sure that your students could understand? Through the assessment tools. We have 2 kinds of assessment. What's the difference? Formative, to assess our students' understanding of the lesson. Summative, to assess our students' knowledge of the chapter or the whole month or the whole term or the whole year. This is
And also we are doing the formative assessment to adjust the strategies of the teachers, right?
Sure. When I have formative assessment and analyze the students' performance, when we analyze, this will be, by the way, mentioned in the assessment workshop. But to answer your question, Ms. Nihal, when we analyze the students' performance, we discuss in details what are the reasons of these results. It may be the students' performance, and it may be the teacher's performance with the students.
Yeah, so teacher, they need to reteach in another strategy.
Yes. It happens as, let me say, as a reflection of our observation to our teachers.
Yes.
Okay? So this is the detailed plan that I meant to limit the point of the first domain. What are the most important points that we mentioned in this domain? Demonstrating knowledge of the content and pedagogy. Pedagogy means the art of teaching. So what are the most important points in the first domain? I mean plan and the preparation. To demonstrate knowledge, the teacher should demonstrate. The teacher should have knowledge of the content and pedagogy. The teacher should have knowledge and great understanding of the standards. Number B, demonstrating knowledge of the students. How? When I mentioned the teacher should have knowledge, demonstrate knowledge of the students' prior knowledge. For example, I will teach this year grade 5. Before teaching grade 5, I have to go back to grade 4 to check what are the skills that they already had last year, because I will build on them. As you see, sequential order of the skills. Only to read the standards? Yes. It's very important to be aware of your students' skills that they had last year, because you will build on them. Setting structural outcomes. What is this? each subject should have its own goals. When I said in your curriculum mapping here, you should mention what are the objectives of this subject. You describe the course. Is it clear? So here, setting your structural outcomes. What are your goals out of teaching this subject? Demonstrating knowledge of the resources. Very important to know and prepare your resources for the lessons before designing your lesson plan, or even before designing or developing your curriculum mapping. What are the different resources? If you are using Oxford, for example, they are so rich in different resources, or resources, both, by the way, are correct. Designing coherent instructions, connected teaching. The transition from each part in the lesson should be natural. This is the meaning of designing coherent instructions. I start my lesson demonstrating my warming up, for example. Then I go to discuss the vocabulary that I need to in my teaching. Then I instruct, I teach my lesson. Then the last part of the period, I have the practical part to check, to assess my students' understanding of the lesson. There should be natural transition from each point to the next. This is the meaning of coherent instructions, coherent teaching. Designing student assessment, and we discussed it. Designing student assessment. You develop your assessment tools, bearing in your mind the 6 levels of knowledge. They had been clarified in Bloom's taxonomy, of course. 6 levels of knowledge. We have 6 levels of knowledge. This for the, for example, struggling students or weak students. There is for the middle students. There is for the advanced level, and so on. We have 6 levels. Inshallah, we'll discuss them in details. Yes, we will discuss them in details in our assessment, inshallah, workshop. I put here between brackets teacher's character. Teacher's character, yes. I'll tell you how. This is so important, and by the way, it's observable in virtual classes, but these days it's not observed by the principal or by the coordinator or by the school leader. It's observed by the whole community. Now the whole community are assessing us. How? Check this. Sometimes we see this in our virtual class. Even when you want one of the students to answer, we can say Muhammad, and sometimes say Muhammad. The tone shows whether I am a friendly teacher, or we can say, so sorry to say this word, or tough one. Even our appearance in front of the parents and the students reflect our character. So it's very important when we mention the teacher's character is one of the important factors to be a professional one. To be able to attract your students to love your subject. By the way, if the students if you can make your students love you as a teacher, you will be successful in teaching them. So the first step, the teacher's character. Now we will discuss the second domain. Can any volunteer limit the most important points in the first domain entitled planning and preparation? We said to be a professional teacher, we have 4 domains.
Yes,
we finished
may I
the first one. Okay, Ms. Shireen, what do you
Yes,
teach?
may I talk? Yes.
Yes, okay, sure.
Social story and speaking.
Okay. Okay, Mr.
Yes, yes. I think one of the most important points you said that we should make activity for each lesson, and it's important to confirm on activities. It will help us to reach meaning or to reach the message of
Great.
each lesson.
Great. Ms. Shireen, how can you set the activities as a teacher? How can you set the activity? Ms. Shireen, do you hear me? Shireen?
Yes, hello. Yes, yes.
Okay, my question again. How do you set your activities? You said I have to develop my activities on which I will explain my lesson or by which. How can you set your activities, Ms. Shireen?
Yes, I can set my activities according to the levels of students. I think their imagination, their way, their attitude in class, all of this determine the way of the activity. I think it's important to be up to date, more different, more unthinkable, and new way. Do you understand me? I
Yes.
mean, unthinkable thing they cannot expect something new, something different, something to make them use their minds more and more. I think. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. Who else? Who else? I could hear someone is talking. Who else? We have here you. Alaykum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
My name is Ms. Rahab. I teach science.
Okay.
Okay, you were talking about how to set our activities. According to science, activity is very important, but it's very different between virtual class and face-to-face teaching, okay? When I used to do it in face-to-face teaching, I used to choose activities that make the whole point of the lesson and each student can participate in it. I teach a grade 2, by the way. Grade 2, when I set their activities, I used to choose activity that is very easy to make. We can set it in groups, show the whole point of the lesson, okay? And at the same way, it's easy for small kids, only 7 or 8 years, okay? Virtual class is more different. Our activities now is much about participating, say their points or their views of the lesson, collecting pictures, classifying animals by using different pictures. Very different between virtual class and face-to-face teaching.
Let me ask you, if you want to implement next generation science standards with the students concerning experiments, what should we do as a science teacher? What should we do?
As a science teacher, maybe if we choose a lesson like
you mean, Mr. Rahab, my question, the practical part, sorry for interruption. I mean the practical part. It's okay.
If I choose lesson like different materials, by, for example, okay, if I wanted to make it more practical for kids, or as you asked me, to make it experimental more than teaching face-to-face, I ask them to collect different materials and they will classify it by themselves, or try to know the origin of each material and how to classify it according to each origin, or how can they made to change this material so we can make it as natural or man-made. I think that's my point for now. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Can anyone else limit the points that we have already discussed concerning the first domain, planning and preparation? It's okay. Before I start, do we have?
Okay, I'm Radwa Mukhtar.
Okay.
Yes, Ms. Radwa, a science teacher. Okay, science teacher.
Great.
I'm a science teacher for the lower grades like grade 1, okay, and grade 3, okay. Regarding the activity point, Okay, I see it's very, very important to make to relate the science that the students study, okay, with the real life. Okay.
Hmm.
So when I prepare my lessons or make my plans for the week that will start, I ask the students, okay, to prepare some things from their homes. Okay, a lesson like animals. Okay, I asked the students to prepare animals from their toys. Okay,
Yes.
so the students were attractive to the idea and they prepare their toys that they are using in their homes. Okay, and share the names of animals with me. Okay, and share where is the animals live and what the animals need to live, okay, as a living things or not. Okay, even in a lesson like plant, students started to make plants at their homes. Okay, and told me what the plants need to grow. Okay, by practical idea. Okay, even in the virtual classes, I'm talking about the virtual classes this year. The students, I moved the idea to the students, okay, through the lessons, and they applied that at their homes. Okay, I asked them to bring some things from their homes. Okay, so the parents were very encouraged to do that. Okay, even something like the body parts. I started to make creative idea, something like the students, okay, to print their photo. Okay, print a photo to the student himself or herself. Okay, then to study the body organs names, the body parts names on him or herself. Okay, so I see that it's very, very important to link the science to the practical life, the real life, to make the students attractive and something like creative in their ideas, not just to be a theoretical study, something like that. Okay.
Okay, Miss, I could guess that Miss Angie raised her hand. She wants to add something. It's okay, Miss Angie.
Okay, well, for myself, I always pick some words that I'm going to teach them tomorrow and send them in WhatsApp and ask them to Google it, to Google some words before I start, inshallah, next day to teach them about them. So, and in virtual classes too, I love to make the class so funny because I think that when you are a fun teacher and the class is very very lovely and you will enjoy the this class or this lesson, they will be very happy to take another English lesson because English is somewhat heavy for them. So I always put a song every day about something we are going to learn. So it's activity for every day. So when I'm speaking about introducing yourself, okay, so I pick a song or any conversation on YouTube and I put it on the sharing, so they are used to hear natives how to speak or how to sing these songs, and they are very, 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 very happy about this activity every day. And sometimes I asked someone what is the meaning of that or this word, and they when they say I don't know or they cannot guess at all, I said okay, no problem. I'm going to share with you the Google site, and we are going to search together because I want them to know how to search for the information I'm asking, because in the real life a lot of things we don't know. So I have to improve their searching skills. They have to be active,
I do
not to say
agree.
okay, no problem, I will ask my mom. No, no, no. You have to search by yourself how to get the answer you want to. This is one of my strategies. Um, Searching on Google, it's very important for me, very, very important. And singing. and making my class funny and enjoyable. And also the action of what I'm doing now. What do you think this picture is? Yeah, I have flashcards maybe, and I'm showing them, but in the back, and I give them a riddle. It's a big one. Then it's have four wheels, and I can drive it. It's very big like this, and they are guessing till they have the word, or if they don't give me the correct word, I will show them the picture at the end, and I'm going to spell with them the word, because they are great too. Sometimes they are confused in the letters and the sounds, so I give them the picture with the words.
Okay.
You get this? You get me?
Yes, got it.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Only.
So
Thank
now,
you so
if
much.
we want to limit the
Thank you.
points, Miss May wants to say something. It's okay, Miss May.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, sir.
afternoon.
Also, I teach social for the grades 3, 4, 5, and 6. I guess also playing videos concerning the lesson itself, it attracts the children to make them interested in seeing what the lesson is talking about, and so also to make competitions in answering what is the video talking about, or slides or pictures, for example. I guess also this adds a lot to the lesson itself. That's it.
Thank you, Ms. May. If I want to limit the point before, thank you so much. If I want to go to the second domain, I would appreciate Ms. Radwa, Ms. Shireen, Ms. Angie, and Ms. May for their effective participation. Ms. Radwa and Ms. Shireen focused on the points that they make use of teaching through fun to attract the students. This is one of the amazing teaching strategies. Ms. Angie also told us or added this point, teaching through fun and the effective interaction between the teacher and the students, as one of the most important points in teaching methods, to have the interaction between the students and the teacher. The student must be positive, not negative. So thank you. Also, Ms. May stressed the point that we should have video, a recommended idea to attract the students, because here, as you know, in teaching, we should have, let me say, differentiated learning tools to attract the students. Some students learn, it will be, by the way, this here in our workshop, but because Ms. May has mentioned, I have to thank her. Students can answer through visualizing, through participating verbally, through touch, and so on. So she used differentiated learning to attract the students. Again, thank you so much. Then we come to discussing the second domain. Thank you so much, dedicated staff. Inshallah. Classroom environment or classroom management. We may have a good teacher who has knowledge, who can teach well, who can communicate effectively and actively with her or her students. But she or he may have lack of classroom management. So this is a very important domain. To be a professional teacher, you should have classroom management. But how? Again, before we discuss, the teacher should have passion to his job. The students should love the teacher because they will follow your instructions. Whatever you say, they will follow. So the effective teachers organize their classrooms so that all students can learn. They maximize instructional time. Again, maximize instructional time and foster respectful interaction with and among students, ensuring that students find the classroom as a safe place to take the intellectual risk. Please, we should have less instructions to our students, whether we have face-to-face teaching or virtual class. But we should focus on respectful interactions with the students and among them. What do we mean when we say the students should find the classroom a safe place to take the intellectual risk? What does it mean, the word intellectual risk? The students should feel that he is respected, whether he answers right or answers wrong. Very important point, especially in our virtual classes. Please, never laughing at any students. Don't sneer at, don't scold any students, even if he answers wrong. Once I attended one of the virtual classes and I saw the teacher say wrong, stressed. No, say it's a good try, think again, great, you need to add something. You have to motivate the students to support
Mr.
the
Khalid,
students. Okay.
I'm sorry, can I add something?
Okay.
Just as for mocking or for criticizing each other, some teachers, they are giving the chance for their colleagues, okay, to criticize them. I think this is not appropriate and this is not acceptable, because somehow you are not just motivating them, you are making them feeling
We are destroying.
like somehow embarrassed. You are feeling embarrassed, okay, and they are not going to participate anymore.
Yes, you see, you put a wall, a barrier between the teacher and the students, and he doubtless he will hate the subject. Of course, all of us or most of us had this experience. Most of us as educators had this experience in a way or less, that in our real life it did happen with us, and it had a bad effect on our experience.
No, my point is some teachers, they are allowing the students to criticize each other.
No, I
This
mean,
is my point.
when
And this is,
I mustn't let the student
yeah,
to laugh at each other's, or even me as a teacher, I mustn't laugh at or sneer at any students. Because you see, if the teacher laughs at students, he will give the chance to students to do the same among them. So, to have a healthy class, a healthy environment, the student should have the intellectual risk. I mean, he feels safe. He will not be laughed at all by anyone, whether a colleague or a teacher. The second point, student can answer freely without being afraid if he is right or wrong. The teachers never mock or scold the students. This is the deep meaning of the healthy environment learning. In the second domain, we should create the environment of respect, friendly agreement and understanding between the teacher and his or her students, and even among the students themselves. We should establish to have classroom management, effective and active classroom management or healthy learning environment. We have to establish a culture of learning for learning. We come here to learn. We are having virtual classes to learn. Knowledge is so precious. It deserves that we stay in front of our laptops so many hours to seek and to have knowledge. This means that we instill the culture for learning among our students. Then, managing classroom procedures from day one, the first day, as a school and as a teacher. I should have set my classroom rules for the students to follow. Then manage your students' behavior through what? Through the rules that I already have demonstrated. Organizing physical space here, this concerning face-to-face teaching, of course. Interaction, the most important part in classroom management, to have interaction between the students and the teachers, but it should be respectful interaction with and among the students. This is your point, Ms. Nihal, with and among students. You see like this, in an attractive way, set the rules for your students. You see, rule 1, follow directions quickly. Rule 2, raise your hand for permission to speak. Raise your hand for permission to leave your seat, and so on. For lower grades, you can have the one on the left, classroom rules, listening bodies, raised hands, and so on. Okay. What about virtual classes? Maybe like this. How to access the weekly plan, how to access the dashboard, how to access our platform. You show the students the steps, and also you show them the rules to have a good virtual class. So the rules must be demonstrated, must be declared to the learners. Classroom rules, positive environment. Try to instill the spirit of being positive, being positive. It will attract the students. For KGs or grades 1 to 3, we can have one like this. I can stay on task, I can take care of my classroom, and so on. So, in short, you should have demonstrated school rules to have healthy learning environment, to have classroom management, to be able to teach, and the students will be able consequently to learn in a healthy learning environment. So again, we might have had a professional teacher who can teach, who has a lot of knowledge, who can explain, who can attract the students, but he has the lack of classroom management, so his class will be hurly-burly. No one will be able to listen to the other. Okay? Without shouting, of course. This is a very important activity. MashaAllah, we are discussing with a very dedicated staff. Here, we want to share our ideas. How to direct irresponsible teacher, the one who doesn't care, or how to solve the lack of classroom management. Let me limit the point. How can you guide your colleague who doesn't care about classroom management? How can you convince him that this is so important in the educational process? Who will be our next initiative or our next participant? Now we have Miss Angie, participated 3 times, Miss May, Miss Radwa, and Miss Shireen. Am I right? I do remember. Of course, Miss Nihal. Who will be our next initiative or next participant? How can you guide your colleague who doesn't care about classroom management? Only he focused on his knowledge. Miss Reem Nasr, it's okay?
Yes, I am a Miss Reem, teacher of English.
Yes.
I can just convince him that classroom management saves a lot of time during the class. It saves a lot of time to set rules.
Saves time?
Yes, it saves a lot of time to set rules, and it makes the environment, I mean, more likely to kids to learn, more attractive for them. to manage their class, if he has a part for activity and a part for group work, that will make students love their session, love their teacher, and they will give him more than he wants from them. So he will save time. He will get his students to love him and share with him and help him manage his class. When they love him, they will help him manage. They will listen to his instructions. They will follow it. They will get used to these instructions and these rules, and they will do it with love. So he will save time. They will achieve more knowledge from their teacher.
Let me ask you one more questions, Ms. Reem.
Yes.
How can we make classroom management virtually?
Virtually?
Yeah.
We can set rules. We can set rules, and students they will get used to what I'm telling them. For example, I give grade 1 English. So sometimes we do an activity, we listen to a song, we do the song actions with each other. I tell them that they will have to open and close their mics when and where.
Great.
So they listen.
This is so important. This is so important.
Yes.
What grades do you teach,
Yes.
Ms. Reem?
Grade 1 and grade 5.
Yes.
So they know that they when they answer, when they do their activity or they answer, they have to close their mic after they finish. So it saves a lot of time for me, for example.
Sure.
And especially for grade 5. Sometimes in grade 5, I open all the mics and ask them to be quiet. And if they can't be quiet, so they close their mics and they do it. They got used to it.
Great.
And when they finish, teacher, shall I close my mic? Yes, please close your mic. After they finish, they close their mic. So it saves me time for other students.
Yes. I could guess that with grade 5 we can give them the choice to unmute themselves, but in grade 1
it's much easier.
It's so hard in grade 1.
Yes, in grade 1, sometimes their parents are sitting beside them, and they know.
Sure.
Until now, they know. All of them know how to open and close their mic.
Okay. So the first point Ms. Reem mentioned here, to have classroom management, the idea of muting or unmuting mics, right, Ms. Reem?
Yes.
The second point I'd like, yes, thank you. The second point I'd like to add here is to turn on the cameras. Please, all grades from grade.
Yes, they turn on their cameras.
Yes, the all cameras must be turned on. This will force the students to follow the teachers, because I'm sharing my experience with you. When I attend with some teachers and the camera is turned off, the students doesn't care, even if the teacher asks him. But when the camera is turned on, he is concentrating with the teacher. He doesn't do anything, and this makes him fully attracted to the teacher while teaching. So the idea of muting or unmuting the mics, and all cameras must be turned on during the sessions. Thank you. Now, we come to this slide. How do you feel? We discussed a lot of ideas that you already, as a staff, had already created. How do you feel? Do you remember the first slide? Do you remember the first slide, this one? We said we have a lot of traditional teaching methods. We have to set ourselves free to get rid of these traditional teaching methods. Now, after discussing all these points, how do you feel? Are we still restricted to traditional methods, or who is
No,
the
we
next
are not
initiative?
limited. We are not restricted. No.
No, we are free.
We felt that, or let me say, we discussed two important domains that can set ourselves free from the old traditional methods. Am I right?
Yes, definitely.
We come to also classroom rules to continue the idea of classroom management or the healthy learning environment. I'm stressing the idea of being positive, or we should have positive attitude. Listen to the teacher or listen to each other. Listen, put your hands up if you want to speak. We keep our hands or feet to ourselves, respect each other, respect other people's property, take care of our equipment, bring the right equipment to our lessons, use kind words. This goes with the virtual class. Concentrate, virtual class, finish our work on time, it's okay. Walk around the classroom and school corridors, this is face-to-face. Treat people the way you would like to be treated, very important for both young and old people. Treat people the way you would like to be treated. Be a good friend to everyone. Follow directions from others and so on. So when you set the rules for the students, they will follow you. When you set the rules for the staff as a school, they will follow you and so on. So, classroom management impact. What's the impact of classroom management? It will lead to what? Like Ms. Reem Nasr mentioned, she said, I will guide my colleague if he has or she has effective classroom management. This will save a lot of time. What's the result? It will lead to effective instruction. I mean, it will lead to effective teaching. I think Ms. Radwa wants to say something. It's okay, Ms. Radwa?
Yes. Okay. From our experience this year in the virtual classes, we noticed that some students, like grade 1, they even didn't. Not all of them can read well. Okay, but they start practicing speaking. They now, when we ask them to make activity videos, something to be sent to us for evaluation, something like that, they start speaking and they start to have self-confidence, okay, to present, okay, to make a presentation and increase their self-confidence, and encouraging them to send us more and more videos about each lesson, and let us see how they got the information from us. And it was very, very successful, okay, with all students in even grade 1 and grade 3, who they are. They may not speaking English in their real life in Saudi or something like that, but they forced it to do that in all the classes. Okay, this is from the good results and amazing results that we see in this with the students. Even when we manage the classroom, we ask them to wait your turn. Okay, they started to respect the turn of them. Even the class number is more than the time that we can ask them. They can wait for the other day without being without crying like before. And by the beginning of the year, they weren't familiar with the use of Zoom or applications like that, the platform to open the mic, open the camera. Now they are familiar with all of this. And this is an added value to the students in this age.
Great.
I think that.
So we can sum up what you have mentioned in 2 points. Virtual classes leads to effective use of technology, even for lower grades, for young kids. This is a very good, important point. I think it goes with your vision and mission. This is number 1. Number 2, effective classroom management leads to self-confidence, because you will have enough time for each student to demonstrate, to express himself freely. And this, of course, consequently instills self-confidence, right? Saradwa, these are your two important points that you have just shared.
Yes, right. And improves their speaking and skills and accents.
Okay. Thank you.
Perfect.
Appreciate
Thank
your
you.
participation, by the way. Now, we will go to the third domain. So we have just finished 2 domains. Can we limit? I want a new face, a new participant, to limit the most important points in the second domain entitled classroom management or classroom environment. This is the second domain of our workshop today, how to be a professional teacher. We discussed planning and preparation. Then we have just finished discussing classroom management. We want a new participant to limit the points that we have just mentioned in our second domain. We have 2 participants raised hands, mashallah. Miss Isra, new one, and Miss Rihab Goma. Okay, Miss Isra, you raised first, that's why you will start, then Miss Rihab will add after you. Okay.
Okay, hello, how are you?
Fine, thank you. Okay.
So, talk about how to set classroom rules, okay, to make a positive environment for the students.
Yes.
And also how to teach them to speak positively during the session by setting instructions like open your cam, open your mic, raise your hand if you want to speak or to participate. Use kind words to speak with your colleagues. And also we said that we have to set instructions to to reach our goals in education process. That we want to set instructions to save time, to make sure that all students will understand the lesson and will reach the goals that we set, and maybe they will have the skills that we want to teach them.
Okay, now we come to Ms. Rihab. You can add. Thank you, Ms. Isra. Ms. Rihab, you can add.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
For my view of understanding to this point, I think that the most important thing in managing my class, setting rules, this is the first thing. How to be controlled of the class, to make them respect the rules and how to apply it. To divide my class according to my components of the lesson carefully and correctly, so the class will be more effective and we can cover the whole point of our class. And I think the most important thing is the relation between the students and the teacher. It will make them to obey the rules without complaining, with love, and to listen to me carefully and apply with me by either videos or activities or anything, so they can, especially for the lower grades like grade 2, they learning or giving them the whole point or the whole information of the lesson, depending not on me first, then on them. If I give them the information correctly, they will take it and will love it and they will understand it very well, and they will apply it if we have activity or video or anything.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We still have one more participant, Miss, who raised her hand. She lowered it. Miss Fatin, I could guess. Am I right? Or Miss Shireen? Miss Shireen, you raised your hand. Okay, Miss Shireen. It's okay.
Yes, I want to mention something. Just use, if I have a colleague that doesn't care about class management, I can invite him to attend my class to see the importance of management.
Yes, great, great. This
yes, I can invite him.
Ms. Nihal, we can have this technique in our work, peer-to-peer sharing, or just to share attending with our colleagues. It will have a great impact in your professional development plan and training, by the way. If they share attending with each other, but without participating, only sharing, only attending.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you. Now we come to the third domain, instruction. Instruction means teaching. Here we set the accomplished teachers classes, the perfect teachers classes, the professional teachers classes. What do we find in their classes? Number one, all students are highly engaged in learning. The professional teacher never neglects any students, never ignores any students. Even if he or she knows that he is below level, he motivates him or her to participate, to be highly, effectively, actively engaged or involved in the learning process. Very important. I advise you as a brother, when you attend your class, you should have the student name list. Do you know why? Because sometimes while explaining, we, of course, not on purpose, accidentally, we neglect some students. But when I have the name list, at the first 10 minutes, I have 5 students during the warming up, for example. While I'm explaining, I can ask another 5 students. Before I end the session, I ask 5 students. Then you can have who haven't participated up till now, 3 students, 4 students. So I will start with them next period. In this way, you yourself as a teacher, you will have all students highly engaged in your learning process. So this is number one. So please never neglect attending your class without having your weekly plan and the student name list. Okay. The second point, making significant contribution to class success. How? Participation in discussion. Making significant participation to class success. You ask your students to participate with you. When the students participate with the teacher, in this case, we will have mutual participation. I mean, the most important word that I stressed at the very beginning, the effective interaction between the students and the teachers. Then, active involvement in the learning and the learning of others. When you ask the students to be more engaged, actively, highly engaged, they participate in their own learning and the learning of others because they will listen to their colleagues participating and the teachers or the teacher is giving the students feedback about his performance. In this case, the students participate in his own learning and the learning of others. Very important, this point. When a student answers the questions, you give him the feedback, whether he answers right or wrong. In this case, these students, through his answer, he participates in his own learning and the learning of others. So the interaction between the teacher and the students is so important and of high impact on instruction or teaching. Okay. I want you to think of this photo. We will have, let me say, 5 minutes break to pray Maghrib. Then we will come back. Do you agree?
Okay, Mr. Khalid, thank you. May Allah accept.
Just to pray on time, then we come back. Okay?
Inshallah. Thank you.
Thank you. So please think of this after praying, inshallah.
Shall we leave the meeting or we stay online?
No, I will leave it. I will be online. Leave it. Leave it.
Okay.
No problem. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. الو.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
خلاص.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
طيب احنا خلصنا. We have finished.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
الله يكرمكم يا رب. We have finished the second domain that we said we should have classroom management, effective and active classroom management. We should have set the classroom rules for our students. We should be positive with our students, having positive attitude with our students. We should have effective interaction with our students. The student should be actively and effectively highly engaged in the teacher's discussion. In this case, the students will participate in his own learning and the learning of others. Then I said, think of these slides. Let me make it so near. What's the relationship between this slide and the title of this domain instruction? There is a relationship between the title and the slide. I'm trying to make it so near and easy for us to guess. Who can? Ms. Nihal, please, and I used to make certificates for those who participate with me in my workshops. So please, we can write down the names of those who participated with us. And now, the one who will get the point will be the winner of our workshop today. The winner of our workshop today. What does this slide refer to? Miss Shireen Rojdi, it's okay, Miss Shireen?
I think, I'm not sure, but I think more direct instructions for the teacher make him feel loaded.
More what?
Confused.
Sorry, more?
More direct instructions for students make them feel loaded.
Let me appreciate you, and I do thank you for your participation, effective participation. You are so near, but it's the same answer. I'll tell you how. You said more directions for the students will make them lost. I'll tell you my point, and I think you're right. Thank you again, Ms. Shireen. I think you teach science, Ms. Shireen Rojdi, right?
No, speaking, social and story.
Social and story. Okay, we have two participants raised their hands. Let us listen to them, then I conclude. Miss Asma Mabrouk and Miss Isra. Okay, Miss Asma, you can start, please. Miss Asma. Okay, Miss Asma. Time, Miss Isra, okay.
So I think students they may be lost in the instructions and they can't understand what is happening in the classroom. Okay, so
so more instructions will make the students got lost. Thank you, Miss. Okay. Now we come to Miss Radwa. Tell us your point. Then we have Miss Enji. Miss Radwa.
Okay. From the picture, I think that we should go in the same direction. The teachers, the students, the parents, the school, all of our visions to be in the same direction to achieve our goals, okay? And together, in the same direction, we will achieve our targets and goals.
Great. Thank you. We have now Miss Noha El-Mu'taz. Miss Noha. Miss Noha. Okay. Miss Noha. Miss Enji.
I think that when we not following the instructions, we will be very impressive. I think this.
So if we have more instructions, the students will get lost. If we don't have enough or exact instructions, the students will get lost.
Yes, we will get lost.
Will get lost.
Yes,
Okay.
everyone will get lost.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. No too much instructions, no lesson instructions in between.
Great. Yes, great. Miss Asma, you come back, okay, Miss Asma?
Hello, can you hear me?
Okay, yes, I can hear
Hello,
you.
do you hear me?
Yeah.
I think the connection is if the directions or instructions are not effectively and clearly, there will be a number of students who will not have got any part of the information given or failure to do tasks like this. If we are not giving them instructions effectively and clearly for them to understand.
Okay, great. Thank you, Miss Asma. Great. Miss Rihab, then Miss May.
Yes. I think from this picture, I get the feeling of overloading the teachers is not making them to get the whole point. So as Ms. Angie said before, don't overload them. Don't make few instructions that don't get them the whole point. And I think you have to clear them, to clarify them the direction that we are going through, that they can follow it. Don't not only give them instructions, no, give them the whole point and the main direction. So I make them the causes of my instructions.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate. Yes, great. Thank you. Finally, Miss May.
Actually, I think as an addition to my colleagues' ideas, I guess the lot of instructions and the non-organizing instruction make the students get lost. I mean both of them, the lots of instructions and the mess of organizing. If I want to give them a lot of instructions, I can give it to them in an organized way and point by point, not all of them in one way, so they will not be lost.
Let me ask you, Ms. May, what do you mean by the word instruction?
Instructions, I mean, for example, if I want them to make an activity or to answer questions or, for example, a task to give them, I have to give them a task by task, one by one, not all of them in one time and in an organized way. And I prefer to be each one connected to the other one so they will not be lost.
Okay. I think Miss, am I right, Miss Manal? Am I right? Miss Manal Sayed?
I am May.
La, Miss Manal raised her hand. I know you, Miss May.
Yes,
Miss Manal,
yes.
you raised your hand, right?
Yes, I think the good instruction, you should grabbing students' attention and then testing or sharing a screen with them. And then give them the instruction. You should keep the instruction short and simple. And if the instruction is long, you should divide it that, okay?
What do you mean by the word instruction, Ms. Manal?
Divided the instructions means if the exercise have
to make it easy, instruction here means teaching. Ms. Manal, instruction here means teaching.
Yes.
Okay.
I know that.
Okay.
Okay, just that. And then ask the students some question to know if they understand what you say, and then so on. Just that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate all your the variety of opinions. Thank you. Here, the connection between the word instruction, I mean teaching, and this photo, I could say that this happens with most professional teachers. His session is like this slide. Do you know how? When the teacher, even when the professional teachers, because some teachers depend on their own knowledge, they neglect the preparation, they neglect the time management, they neglect what are their top priorities of this session. They have a lot of knowledge, okay, but they didn't prepare. So when they enter the session, they have a lot of knowledge in their heads, but they didn't prepare. They didn't prepare which one they will mention, which one will be mentioned first, which one will be mentioned second, and so on. They have a lot of knowledge, but they didn't prepare. So their session will be like that train. A lot of knowledge, but not organized. We don't have time management. It did happen with a lot of professional teachers because of the lack of preparation and the lack of time management. You see, in Zoom meeting, you can compare these two situations. A teacher is managing her or his session perfectly, and he can close the session before the session ends. Then we come to another teacher. He is talking, then the session ends. He was unable to complete his thought. He didn't prepare. He didn't have time management. So please, time management is so important in instruction. I set 5 minutes, for example, for warming up. How many minutes for have been assigned or specialized set for instruction, for teaching? How many minutes have been assigned for practice to make sure that they could understand my knowledge, and so on. So if I am, let me say, if I were a professional teacher and I didn't prepare well, my session will be like this train. So before entering the session without preparation, remember this slide. Again, before entering the session, before joining, logging in the session, without preparation, without setting your time management, the period doubtless will be like that train. Thank you so much for your effective participation and your creativity, by the way. We come to learning strategies. One of our initiatives mentioned that we should have learning strategies, teaching strategies with our students. I will forward to you. Have you heard about the 101 learning strategies? It's a good book. And we have the two versions, one in Arabic and one in English. Do you have this version? 101 learning strategies. If you don't have, I will provide you with. It's a very, very, very fruitful book. You can have different learning strategies like think, pair, share. Think, write, pair, share. Think, pair, share. They think together, then they demonstrate their answer. Think, write, pair, share. They think together, they write the answer, then one of them give it to the teacher. But how can we adopt this virtually? In Zoom, we can divide our students into groups and break out, as you know. Have you done this? Have you divided your students into groups in Zoom?
Excuse me, can
yes,
I talk?
okay. Yes, yes, sure.
I tried a strategy with grade 1 and it worked like magic.
Great.
I
What's
opened
the
the mic
impact?
for
I mean, what's the result of dividing them into groups?
I divided them into groups of 2. Only 2 can, one asked and the other answers, and they were thrilled and they were very active interacting with me. They
Great.
liked it so much.
Great. Let me
thought
finish.
That they wouldn't understand or they wouldn't get the point, but they got it and they were so happy with it.
Great.
One answers and one asks and the other answers, and it was so great.
With grade 1?
Yes, with grade 1,
amazing.
and they understood it.
Amazing. Ms. Isra wants to share, but Ms. Isra, I'd like to finish the point, then you would add, because I will seize the chance for this point to share our experience about virtual class learning strategies. It will be so beneficial for us as a staff. We have, so Mrs. Ra, give me 1 minute to share. 3-step interview, so we can make one of the students as the interviewer and another one is the interviewee. One asks and the other answers, like what you have done. Show down your paper, they ask the question and each one of them show you his answer in front of the camera. This is my answer, like that. Representative, what's the representative? We divide them into groups, even online, virtually. You divide them into groups, then you ask a question, then one representative of each group will come to share his answer with you, comparing between the 4 representatives or the 2 or the 3. Then they share experience. In this case, they participate in their own learning and the learning of others, and all of them must be appreciated and motivated, evaluated, of course. Group teacher's role, I divide them into groups like what you have done. Then each group has 1 teacher. He is supposed to re-explain in 3 minutes. Then you compare between the performance of the 3 teachers, who is the winner, and the other 2 must be appreciated and motivated, of course. Hot chair, this happens in face-to-face, of course. It's like a circle, one sits in the middle, and he asks the one who will be unable to answer will be the hot chair to ask the others, and so on. 1-minute paper, independent practice. One will have the teacher's role and ask them at the end of the session a question to understand their understanding, and they show their answer written on a paper. Cartoon concepts, you cut the cartoons into paper and they write the answers individually. They show their answers to the teachers. Information gap, like what you see here, and this is, we can say this fits science or social, for example, element, oxygen. So the students are asked to write down the symbol here, number of nitrons, the quantity 16, and so on. So here, information gap, it goes with also social. So we have a lot of teaching or learning strategies, but these days we want to share our experience about virtual teaching. Now it's your turn, Ms. Isra. I still do remember that you want. Am I right? Ms. Isra wants to share?
Yes. I want to share my experience about dividing the class into groups. In speaking session, I divided them into pairs, and I have conversations about travel. So I ask and answer each other about their travel experience, and it was amazing. Also in grade 3, I did this in phonics session. I made a group of 5, and I opened the mic for each, and I asked them to pronounce some particular words after me to make sure they pronounce in a good way. So it was an amazing experience, really.
Great. Do we have other teachers who have good experience in virtual learning strategies? We want to share. We have Ms. Shireen. Yes, it's okay, Ms. Shireen. MashaAllah.
It's okay. I did it with grade 6. I was talking with them about education, and we have 3 pictures in different countries, different classes. Each class has its own way in education. Okay, so I asked one of them to talk, to give his vision, and asked the other to comment, to say the comment of his colleague's opinion. So they were very active. They participated. Most of them criticized his friend, say advantages and disadvantages in his opinion, and it was very nice. Yes.
Great. Now, Miss Engineer Hanan, am I right?
Okay, hello.
Yes, hello.
My name is Hanan, math teacher. My strategy in my visual classroom, in the beginning of my session, I try to motivate my student by I write a small exercise on the board and tell him I want to see the first one, or also I take only 5 answers.
Sorry for interruption. You use the board virtually?
Yes.
Great. That's what I'm asking. I used to do that.
Okay.
That's what I'm asking.
Okay. Okay, and also I told him I want to know I want to take only 5 answers. So I think this is motivate all students, and all students try to be the first one to take extra point or take extra bonus, and loved all of them in the next session loved to give him competition and give him exercise to become the first one.
Great. I'll tell you something to motivate your students more. You can develop certificates for them to demonstrate them while having your session, or they can be uploaded on the dashboard or on the Facebook page. This will motivate the students because, as you know, not only the students are competing against each other, but the families are competing against each other. This is my son, this is my daughter, and so on. So if you can develop certificates for the best participants, it will be of great beneficial to you as a teacher, to you, to your subject and the school as well. Okay. We did it, by the way, in most of the schools that I used to supervise. They used to develop certificates, and it motivates, this technique, I mean, motivates all the students, not some or most, all the students have been highly motivated by developing certificates for them. The best participants, the hero of the session, creative thinker, and so on.
Yes.
Now we are sharing our experience because virtual teaching is so hard, and we can make it so attractive for the students. Okay. Still, we have Miss Angie. She wants to participate. Thank you. Okay. Miss Angie, now it's your turn, okay? Share your experience, please.
Yes, hello? Okay, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, hear you well. Okay. You're lagging. You have a problem in your internet connection, Miss Angie.
I asked my boys.
I can't hear you well. Even most of us, we can't hear you well. You're lagging. You can move. Miss Angie?
Mr. Khalid, sorry, because Mrs. Angie, she's in the hospital right now. That's why. So, and I'm really, I do appreciate actually.
So sorry, and we do appreciate your participation. His effective participation. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hello,
thank you so
I'm here again. Hello,
okay.
I changed my place.
It's okay. We appreciate your participation, by the way. Wishing you quick recovery.
Alhamdulillah. Okay, I'm here again. I think that it's clear. My voice is clear now.
Yeah.
Every day I ask my boys, the best one will be tomorrow's coach, because every day I give my boys 5 minutes to practice, to do some exercise, physical exercise, like running, jumping jacks, and like this. So every day, the best one in participating and in being good and in paying attention with me and everything like this. I give him a star and ask him to practice and see YouTube's videos about physical exercises. Yes. So in the next period, I asked him to be the coach for our class, and they are very, very, very motivated about this, because you know, boys like to move and like to be sportive like this.
Great.
So this is very, very lovely. I really want to share with my friends about it.
Thank you so much. Highly appreciated your participation, Ms. Angie. Thank you. Wishing you recovery again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, I'd like to ask you, what do you think the best technique in instruction is? What do you think the best technique in instruction? I mean in teaching. When I teach, what's the best thing that I have to do as a teacher? When I teach, what is the best thing I have to do? Interaction. What does it mean, interaction?
To let them interact with each other.
Giving and receiving instructions means giving questions and receiving answers from the students to ensure that the expected learning outcomes will be surely or effectively achieved. Okay, again, when I teach, how can I ensure that my knowledge has already been understood well by the students? Through what? Asking and the student answer. Okay? So any period without this technique, it's incomplete session. It's not complete, incomplete. To have a perfect session, there should be effective interaction. What does it mean, the best technique in instruction? To ask the students and receive answers. Still third step. What's the third step that most of the teacher don't do because of they didn't prepare their time management? Do you know what?
Discussion.
The feedback. Thank you, Ms. Nan. The feedback. What's the feedback? I'm a student and you are my teacher. You asked me and I answered. Up till now, I didn't know whether my answer is right or wrong. So the feedback is so important in teachers' teaching technique. To give the students feedback about his performance, about his answer, whether it is right, whether it is wrong, whether it is incomplete, but through motivational words. We mentioned this at the very beginning. Okay? So ask, answer, give feedback. Again. AAG. Ask, answer, give feedback about the student's performance or the student's answers. Very important. If we want to set the cycle of our work as a subject teacher, what are my expected learning outcomes? I mean, my goals. You set your goals, okay, then you craft your detailed plan. Okay, I explain to the students different levels using different teaching methods and using differentiated learning. Okay, what happens next? I assess my students. What happens after assessment? I analyze my students' performance. What's the next step? Based on the analysis, I develop my intervention plan. I mean the remedial plan or the action plan or the school improvement plan and so on. This is the cycle of the subject teacher. Is it clear? You set your goals. By the end of grade 4, for example, my students should be able to do 1, 2, 3. These are my goals. Then I set my detailed plan to achieve, taking into consideration the different levels. What does it mean, different levels? Different activities, differentiated learning. I explained how can I ensure that my students could understand my knowledge through assessment. Now I assessed. What's the impact of the assessment to analyze my students' performance? What happens after the analysis? Start developing my intervention plan or the remedial plan, or sometimes we have to take action plan rapidly. For example, in one of the schools, when we analyze the students' performance, In the English assessment writing questions, we noted that all the students are unable to write their essay well. They only write in paragraph. They are unable to write complete meaningful sentences. Here, there should be an action plan that must be developed at once. They created writing booklet showing the writing process, the different kinds of writings, different topics for the students to write. They set one period for writing. They assign the students to write on the spot their draft. The teacher gives them feedback about their draft in class, and the students write the neat copy or the final draft at home. Up here in virtual classes, what should we do? The same, but in a different way. We have a specific period or session for writing. The students used to write their essay on paper. They take a photo and upload it on the dashboard. The teacher writes their feedback on the discussion tab, and the students can read and receive easily the teacher's feedback about their performance. Very important. If we want to limit the point of the third domain, what are the components of the third domain that we have already finished? I mean the elements of the third domain. Number one, communication with the students. I mean effective interaction with the students. This is number one. So to implement the third domain, to be a professional teachers, these are the most important items. So I am summarizing what we have discussed in the third domain. Effective communication, I mean interaction with the students. Using the questioning and discussion technique, very important. Ask, answer, A-G. Ask, answer, give feedback. Engaging the students in learning, we should have the students' name list to divide the timing on the students. Using assessment instruction, why? Because I want to ensure that all the students could understand my knowledge. Demonstrating flexibility and responsiveness. The teacher should be flexible enough with the students to attract them. Don't be fanatic, don't be rough, don't frown. With a little responsiveness. To have flexibility does not mean that I have lack of responsiveness or the students. No, flexibility with responsiveness. High expectations. As a teacher, I should have high expectations. How? When I prepare, I tell myself, all the students will understand. How? I have struggling students. Vary in teaching. You should have differentiated learning tools. Differentiated learning strategies, teaching different strategies to meet all the different levels of the students. Okay? Being aware of the standards, align the standards with the content. Standards here in instruction, yes, because you are achieving the skills. You want to set the skills that students must acquire and achieve. Repertoire. Repertoire is a very significant word. To use what is beforehand. Sometimes we ask some teachers, why don't you explain? I don't have headset. The internet connection is not good. I don't have the book. I don't have the paper. The class is so far. Repertoire means use what is beforehand to achieve. Very significant word. You have to create your own environment to be creative as a teacher. Finally, teachers' self-assessment. I recommend to have this, please. I recommend to have this. Self-assessment, or what is called self-reflection. How? I prepare. Okay, you prepare your lesson. After finishing the period, I revise my preparation. Oh, I forgot to explain this point. So next time I have to explain. I have to start explaining this, then continue my work. This is the self-reflection. Sometimes you have a very important point and I do not focus on it. So I assess myself, having self-assessment. I neglected having a lot of time for this point. I didn't discuss it in a good way with my students. So I have to repeat this point with my students. This is the self-assessment that we need for our teachers or from our teachers, to assess yourself. That principal doesn't show, doesn't see, the school leader doesn't see, only it's for myself as a teacher. It's for on myself, okay? Do you see this video? Do you see the video? Do you see the video?
Yes, yes, we can see it.
I want
Yes, we
only
can
two
see it.
participants. Thank you. I want two participants. They have to summarize what are the most important points in this video. This is the, you see the title? The implementation of friendly guidance. You see here the relationship between the teacher and her coordinator. You see how do they deal with each other? Okay, I want you to write down the most important points, then I will give you my comments. Okay, let's continue. You see here, this is a brief discussion. Do you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
Yes.
This is a brief discussion about, or this is a situation between a teacher and her coordinator. First, they prepare their work. Then the teacher goes to the classroom to implement. Then they sit together again to rediscuss what she has implemented in her class. This is what should have happened between the teacher and the coordinator. If we want to manage the period academically, look at this slide. It's so significant. You can take a photo to this slide, very important. How can we manage our period academically? You see, first, at the very beginning, you see, I divided the period into 3 portions. The first portion here, once I enter the class, I should have demonstrated my objectives to the students. By the end of this period, you should be able to do so and so and so and so. at the very beginning. Then I start implementing my warming up, and we have a lot of techniques to do my warming up, to align between the previous and the recent lesson, to have brainstorming, to have pre-questions, to have suggestions, to have a video. We have a lot of techniques to start our warming up. And of course, your books, I mean, the Teacher's Edition online resources are so rich in this respect. Then I suggest this point with English, math, and science teachers, even with social. How? Most of the students complain that they are unable to understand math lesson or science lesson because we use mathematical terms or scientific terms that the students are unable to understand. So what do you think if we use the words of the new lesson here before I start explaining the new lesson? I explain the new words that I will use in the new lesson. So when I start explaining in the middle instruction in teaching, the students will be able to understand and follow me. Very important, especially in science, social, and math, and of course English. But whether in the warming up or instruction, I mean teaching, there should be interaction with the students. Some teachers used to make their warming up, explain their lesson. After finishing, they say, now we start the discussion with the students. No, the discussion should be implemented in all parts of the lesson, warming up or instruction or the practice. But if we want to discuss the time management, we can say the warming up can have from 5 to 7 minutes. Instruction here, I mean teaching the lesson, demonstrating the lessons, it should take from 25 to 30 minutes. And at the last 5 or 7 minutes, we make the practical part that is so important. And this is the outcome to make sure that the students could understand your lesson. Guided practice, this is the first point in practical part. Guided practice here in this part, the teacher writes a question, imposes a question, and he answers the questions as a student to show them how to answer. Then we come to the second point, dependent practice. The teacher imposes the questions and divided the students into groups, and he only interferes giving hints. Check the sign, missing word, missing spelling, and so on. Only this. Then he gives them feedback. The last part of practice, independent practice. In the independent practice, the teacher imposes the questions or a problem, leaving the students to answer without any interference to make sure that they could understand his knowledge. Then he should give them feedback if their answers are right or wrong. The last part, assessment. In the assessment part, the teacher imposes a question based on the standards to measure the objectives that he already sets at the very beginning. So assessment measures the objectives of the lesson. Finally, reflection. This is what I have finished in the last slide. Self-reflection or self-assessment. The teacher evaluates himself or herself to make sure that they achieved all their or her or his preparation. When explaining, you see in the middle, I wrote here visual, auditory, kinesthetic. These are the differentiated learning tools. Some students can learn through visualizing, others through hearing, others through doing. So these are the differentiated learning tools that can fit all the students' levels or the students' needs. Again, in the first part of the period, warming up, in the middle part, teaching or instruction, the last part, practice, there should be interaction with the students. AG, ask, answer, give feedback. This slide shows us how to manage the period academically, whether it is virtual teaching or face-to-face teaching. Very important. Very, very important. How to manage your period academically. I used to set the time management while preparing my lesson plan to be able to control timing while explaining. And don't forget, you must have your student name list with you. Okay? We start the last part of the workshop 4 domains today. So we finished planning and preparation, we finished classroom management or environment, we finished instruction or teaching. Now professional responsibilities. How can I say that I'm a professional teacher? Number 1, I must have ethical standards and professionalism, deep sense. Ethical, yes. I'm an English teacher. When the students told us last year, Mr. Muhammad, the English teacher, taught us. Yes, I know Mr. Muhammad is a very good teacher, excellent teacher. We are friends, we are brothers. Compare it to the other situation. I know him, but there is a big difference between Muhammad and me. I'm a professional. Muhammad used to teach grade 1, but I teach grade, for example, 8. So there is a big difference. So please put it aside. You see the different situations? This is the ethical standard that the teacher should have. Whether with administration or whether your colleagues. And the students do respect the teacher who respects his or her colleagues or her administration. So first of all, ethical standards I should have. Before anything else, ethical standards. Number 2, focusing on improving my own teaching and supporting other colleagues' ongoing learning. Supporting other colleagues, yes. We can ask ourselves, how many people in your lives have you met giving their work to others to support them? I don't want to receive the answers, but we are living in a world that is so hard. But to be a professional teacher, I have to support others because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will create the one who will support me. So focusing on improving myself and improving others. I know a lot of people, when they have knowledge, they are so keen on spreading this knowledge to others. The meaning of improving myself and others. I'm an English teacher. I got some specific standards. I share them with my colleague. Ms. Reem, you want to add something because you raised your hand?
Yes, Mr. Khalid.
Okay.
We are so lucky to have each other, all our team, so, English or math or science teachers, because we help each other a lot.
MashaAllah.
And we improve each other's skills. We give each other tips, papers, and everything.
MashaAllah.
And thanks God, we are so lucky to have each other in Sunny Valley School.
I have this impression, by the way, out of your discussion. I have this impression out of your discussion. MashaAllah.
Yes, we all do this to each other.
MashaAllah.
Yes.
MashaAllah.
Thank God.
But this is a general workshop, by the way, yeah?
Thanks, Doctor.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your addition. Thank you. The third point, the record-keeping systems are efficient and effective. By the way, sometimes we have a very good teacher, but when you ask them, where are your records to check the students' marks? I said, I don't do. Why? Where are your lists for the students to check their marks, to improve or to check? They don't have. The professional teacher should have made their records effectively and accurately. Communicating with families, very, very, very sensitive way, sensitive point. Communicating with families. We have to be positive with families. The mother asks about her child who is struggling. I don't mean to deceive her, but to be positive. Of course, each child, each student, I'm sure, has his own points of strength, even the struggling ones. So at the very beginning, we should mention the positive points. Your son is so intelligent. You mention what he has, what he already had. Then I mentioned, but there are some points we want to improve together. Compare one teacher will have the other situation. Your son is so lazy. He didn't do anything. Mister, please re-explain to him. Even if I re-explain, he will not understand. Your son level is like grade 1. You compare between the two situations and you can imagine them. You can imagine that you are the same mother who received these destructive words. So communicating with families should be clearly to the point without talking too much, taking into consideration the culture and sensitivity of the parent. No mother at all wants to hear that her son is so weak. That's why we should be positive. Then we mention the points that should be improved, not the weakness point. It's a very bad word. Points to be improved. Can we mention the most important items for professional responsibilities? My professionalism should be reflected on teaching. We have a lot of teachers in our community who are so professional, but they don't give their knowledge to the students. They keep it for other purposes. For example, all of us know the other communities or the different people around us. It did happen. So if I am a professional teacher, my professionalism should be reflected on my teaching with my students. Maintaining accurate records. I should have accurate records for the students. The students, his paper said he got 10, but in the teacher's record, 5. Disaster. Disaster, especially in virtual teaching. Communicating with families to the point, being positive, then mentioning the points to be improved and showing the parents that we will work together. Participating in a professional community inside the school and outside the school. As you showed us, Miss, who mentioned the last point? Miss May? That we are, Miss Reem, sorry, Miss Reem. That we are cooperating and we are so lucky to have these collaborative staff, mashallah. Growing and developing professionally together, sharing experience, showing professionalism. Of course, professionalism means that I have to improve my own teaching and work with others to improve theirs. Reliability. The professional teacher must be reliable. Yes, achieving his assignments perfectly on time. We need the teacher's mark on Thursday because we will share it with the parents on the dashboard. They don't do on Thursday. They will provide it on Tuesday. You can imagine the situation. The parents are calling, where are our records, and so on. So achieving your assignment perfectly and on time. Collaborative. There should be a weekly meeting to discuss the students' assessment, the students' performance, how to improve the students' performance and the students' levels, and so on. Each coordinator at least should have a weekly meeting with his or her staff. Quick and positive response to stakeholders' input. Stakeholders, whether the staff, the teacher, and the parents. Input, whether it is appraisal or complaint or suggestions. The teacher should be quick and positive. When I receive, my son is weak in reading, don't neglect the input from the parent. Whether it is complaint or appraisal or suggestions. In short, the professional teacher must be creative, improving teaching and learning. This is professionalism. We can say the professional teacher holding the highest standard of honesty, creativity, confidentiality, integrity, and making leadership role with colleague. A model. exerting more effort to challenging negative attitudes or practicing to ensure that undeserved students are honored in the school. Very important. This is this point relates to the student should have intellectual risk. The professional teacher exert more effort to the struggling students, with the struggling students. Why? To ensure that those undeserved struggling students must be honored, must be respected in the school. Having effective interaction with the students. You see, we repeat this point in all domains. Interaction with the students in domain 2, in domain 3, and in domain 4. Which domain takes place in classroom? Now we have 4. Planning and preparation, classroom management, instruction, professionalism. Which one takes place in classroom? Which domain takes in classroom? Planning and preparation, of course, do not take place in classroom. But domain 2, classroom management and instruction, they take place inside the classroom. What about domain 1? Takes place before the teacher enters the classroom. What about domain 4? Follows classroom interaction to have all the professional points to be implemented. What is the core of the whole components? I mean components of domain 1, domain 2, domain 3, and domain 4. Each domain has its own components, I mean its own items. What's the important one? Do you remember? A-G. Ask, answer, and give feedback. And of course, this happens in 3B. I mean domain 3, instruction, questioning and answering technique. Please remember this: A-G, ask, answer, and give feedback. So sorry, we are about to finish the 3rd hour. I hope the workshop is interesting enough for us to share our experience and it's not monotonous. So the 3rd activity, if you have a well-prepared curriculum mapping, do you think that you should finish your entire curriculum mapping? If yes, clarify. If no, clarify not. I want only 2 participants. If you have a well-prepared curriculum mapping, do you think we should finish all the curriculum? If yes, why? If no, why not? Who will be the first initiative one? Participant, the first volunteer. Hands up. Not yet. I'll tell you something. I think you are so tired. I'm so sorry again. We're about to finish. But it's so interesting to be with you, discussing, receiving your instructions. I have learned a lot out of this workshop today with you. MashaAllah, dedicated team and kids staff. We have the curriculum mapping. We teach according to the curriculum mapping timing and dates, but we should be flexible enough with responsiveness. We make curriculum analysis at the end of the term to see what have been covered and what haven't been covered yet, then starting developing our 2nd term plan. But don't make your main concern to finish the curriculum, because if our main concern to finish the book, we will not teach the students. We will focus only on the number of pages, not the number of skills included in the standards. Ms. Shireen wants to add something?
Yes, I think it's about quality, not quantity.
Yes, great. Ms. Nihal, you want to add?
Actually, this is exactly what I was trying to say. It's about quality, not quantity. I can just skip some parts that can be covered later on, but it's about how they are going to be sufficient about the parts that they are going to tackle.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Here to sum up, I'm trying to remind you of what we have discussed. We set our goals. We work to achieve our goals. We make assessment. After the assessment, we analyze. Based on the result analysis, we start developing our action plan or school improvement plan or even professional development plan. Alhamdulillah, we finished the 4th domain, covering the 4 domains to be a professional teacher. So happy and proud to have this workshop with you. So happy to receive a lot of benefits out of our discussion together. I've learned a lot from you today. Appreciating your initiatives, appreciating your participation. Inshallah, we'll meet again in another workshop. Ms. Nihal, I could guess that we should have appointment tomorrow to discuss the accreditation files, especially standard number 2, the educational program. If you want to ask me anything or to add any, I know that you are so tired. Again, it's a fruitful workshop with you. Appreciating your participation. Thank you so much. If you want to tell me anything, I'm ready, then leaving you to have rest. Thank you, thank you, thank you again for your fruitful discussion that I got a lot of benefits out of it. Okay.
Actually, we are the one who should thank you, Mr. Khalid, and I'm passing a warm and convivial welcome for you. Thank you, and your effort is much appreciated.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for our dedicated participants today. Inshallah, we will prepare the certificates for them. Inshallah, when I visit you, I want to write down their names because there should be some gifts for them, expressing my gratitude to their effective participation in the workshop. Thank you so much for your school, for your dedicated staff, and for your active participation in the workshop. See you again, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Khalid. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. حفظ الله.